Hello, everybody. We're back again. Kathy's back from her trip to Texas, and we've got some very prescient news to look at today. But we're looking at two or three people that are very much in the news. But first of all, I'm Louise Edington, Cosmic Owl Astrology. I'm Cosmic Owl Astrology everywhere on social media. I do usually offer consultations, but I've paused them till next year because I'm having a bit of a break after publishing my series book, which is also going really well. And I would love to ask for please, if you've got the book and read it, more reviews on Amazon. If you didn't buy it from Amazon, you can review under the Kindle option, no matter which country you're in. And also, I still have an ongoing membership. I have a membership on Substack and a membership called The Nest that's on my website where you go deeper. Okay, Kathy.
Hey, everybody. I'm Kathy Biehl. My website is empowermentunlimited.net. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Kathy Biehl. My YouTube channel is Professional Aquarian. And I have a Facebook group, the Astro Insight Lounge, we discuss what's going on in the news a lot, and also some sassy sun sign memes. And I am still doing personal consultations, but very few next week. They're booking out now. Yes. So if
Yeah.
you're interested, you need to get on my schedule. So there we have it.
Well, I'm actually already booked up to, like till the end of November anyway. So I was like, I need a break.
Excellent.
We do everything on our own pretty much. We astrology.
Breaks are good.
Yeah. Anyway, so we've got the usual rundown because Kathy was traveling. She's got quite a pared down rundown of the news, but she's picked out the most important parts, and
Yep.
then we'll go through the aspects. So,
And again, the reason that I talk about the news at all is to point out how astrology works. So I try to
mhm,
look for things that play out, the forecasts that we've given. And in particular, this time, I've been paying attention to the recent Mars, planet of action, war, aggression, recently created a grand air trine, which is a giant round robin of communication and mental energy, and it was powered by Mercury stationing direct, ending his retrograde, and also Saturn and Neptune conjunct in Aries, which can be dissolving structures, it can be visionary leadership, it can be all kinds of things. So, under this, we had Putin coming to U.S. soil to meet with Trump. Mars, planet of action, planet of aggression, was on Trump's Neptune in Libra in his second house. So, how he makes money, um, hidden deals, cloak deals, illusion, whatever. And it was in an opportunity aspect or a sextile to transiting Mercury in the 12th house of hidden things and criminality. So, secret agenda, cloaked conversations, the fact that nobody knows what they really talked about and why the meeting was cut short, the very probability, strong probability with Mars on that of pressing to implement some agreement that had been made and also pressing for an additional agreement. So I'm sure there were things that were asked for. And this was followed by all the EU leaders showing up in Washington to stand alongside Zelensky when he was meeting with Trump in DC. And this is all followed by a Russian drone strike on an American facility in Ukraine. Okay, so there's that collection. All right, then in the courts, a court has ordered the partial dismantling of the Alligator Alcatraz facility because environmental concerns were not paid attention to. That's a big win. And another one, I was hoping for this one. A court has found that the appointment was illegal of the U.S. Attorney for the state of New Jersey, Aileen Haba, that she was illegally appointed, and this and all of her actions since her appointment on July 1st to invalidation. Happy dance here. I love Jersey. Unfortunately, SCOTUS has allowed Trump to revoke National Institute of Health grants tied to DEI, but This was not a 6-3 vote. This was a 5-4. So what's going on? And a new appeals court validated the fraud fine against Trump in his gigantic fraud case as violating the Eighth Amendment prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment, but they did not touch the finding of fraud. So this will get dumped up one more court. There's only one more level it could go. This cannot go to SCOTUS, all right? In the meantime, this morning, the FBI is now targeting John Bolton over his book, and they are seeking, they raided his house this morning, and they are seeking internal communications with administration officials during the first Trump administration that ended up underpinning Trump's first impeachment for um, uh, trying to extort Ukraine. Um, the Smithsonian has been ordered to review all exhibits to bring them in line with Trump's view of history. Mhm. Okay, two more areas. Gavin Newsom of California is using social media to battle Trump in a kind of Pee Wee Herman-esque way, doing to him what he does, and it's working. In
and
districting battles,
and he
yes.
has a female social media woman, which is awesome. Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
right, right. And she's not claiming responsibility for it. She's saying it's a communal, how like a
Yeah.
woman, that's a communal effort. Um, okay, but in the redistricting battle, all right, the Texas reps who had fled the state have returned. One was locked in the Capitol because she refused to sign. They wanted all of them to sign little doc, refused to sign. She's suing the state of Texas. We'll be looking at her chart in a minute. The Texas House has passed the G-friendly map, and it's now, as we're talking, before the Senate in Texas. There are lawsuits about this already. There was a pre-existing lawsuit brought by a Hispanic rights organization for the previous map. I think they're just going to
Mhm.
continue it. And now California has a new map in play. One of the things that came out of the Texas reps hanging outside the state for so long was it gave California time to get one, and the governor of New York is making noise about doing this, so we'll see where this ends up. Missouri apparently is now going to redraw its maps to make it even more red. Okay. Um, and
Utah already did it, by the way.
Utah already did it. Okay, so we got the redistricting battle. And then in the real issue that is what is being ignored because of all this prestidigitation going on, Epstein files, right? A court has denied a DOJ request to release grand jury transcripts saying this only involved one informant. You've got the whole files. This is you're trying to just release your files to Congress. Um, Barr testified behind closed doors before the House Oversight Committee, and word that leaked was that he did not say good things about the person ordering all this stuff. And that committee is supposed to receive its first batch of documents from the DOJ today, which is Friday the 22nd, as we're recording. So,
Yeah. I bet they go after Bar next. Anyway. So I'm going to go through the aspects, and like we did 2 weeks ago, I'm going to share the chart. I'm just going to move it forward day by day, and we're going to give you the general overview of the biggest aspects. Both Kathy and I do week ahead forecasts, which are more focused on what it means for you. And I'm. Do you do new and full moon ones too? I do them as
oh
well.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So,
monthly.
if you kind of want more detail or more how it affects you, then just, go and watch those. Anyway, so the biggest aspects of the week. Early tomorrow morning, we have this Virgo new moon at 0 degrees Virgo. And it is, so here is the new moon, the moon and sun together. And it's in what's called a yard or finger of fate, pointing right at it to Pluto, or from Pluto in Aquarius, and Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And this is huge for many reasons. A yod is a very uncomfortable aspect for a start. It is literally a finger of fate. It's like destiny. It's like pointing at this point. And the new moon is conjunct fixed star Regulus, which does not move itself, but from our perspective, it moved into the sign of Virgo at the end of 2011 after 2,160 years in the sign of Leo. And this is the first new moon that's conjunct Regulus, because I look back through them all since Regulus moved. It's also square Uranus, the big change maker. So, the breakthroughs and breakdowns and radical change, revolution, whatever you want to call it. So, how would the yod? I always have a bit of trouble interpreting yods because they are quite complex. But to my mind, with Saturn and Neptune working together to kind of boundaries and boundlessness and breaking down a lot of the structures that we're living under, both of them moving into Pisces shortly to finish the job in Pisces. That's a big part of it about in Aries, what's coming, the new that will come after all of this. And then Pluto has that death and rebirth energy too, of digging, but also digging up the shadow and digging up basically the detritus that needs the secrets, the hidden that needs to be hidden. And then it's all coming down to Virgo to kind of point forward. And I find Virgo as being both the critic and kind of assessing all these details, but also it's right work and wanting to do meaningful, finding more meaning in life from what's been revealed. What would you say about that, Yod, Kathy? Because it is quite complex, all of this.
Well, one way of looking at this new moon is wired to come up with completely innovative, new, out of the box ways of thinking. And this is a huge reorganization and cleanup moon. The moon is in the house that has to do with social media, that has to do with what we think, and it's being there's a demand that we change how we talk and how we think, and the demand is being amplified by revelations about corruption and big money and things that have been lied about involving leaders in the government. So I think this is a pivotal moment in the unraveling that has been going on and that Louise and I have been saying is happening. So this is a
Yeah.
big, big moment of it becoming clear, of people looking at it, getting news, information coming out, and people say, how do we fix this? And
Mm,
radical, uh, somebody said the system is broken, and this is a moment, this is a fresh start in, okay, massive proof of how broken the system is. What are
mm.
we going to do?
And just just from the very basics, looking at all this energy at 0 and 1 degrees, that's real new beginnings. That's the
Right.
we've got so much change, and well, we've got more change to come this week, but anyway. So on the 24th, the sun exactly squares Uranus, so that kind of builds on the new moon. We're still under the new moon energy, really. We're under a dark moon for 3 days, so the moon and sun are very close together still. So this is just adding to this change already. But also on the 24th, Mars in Libra. Mars is very much action, will, and drive, and is said to be, I hate the word, but detriment in the sign of Libra. Can be a little passive aggressive. It could kind of indicate a little bit, and we'll see it when we see Gavin Newsom's chart. His kind of some of his memes and things in the all caps and repeating the Donald's words could be said to be a little bit passive aggressive in a little way, but yeah, but anyway, but it's making this air trine to strategy goddess Pallas Athena in Aquarius, which is the sign of patterns and the future and the humanity and connections and the people in many ways. So, lots of information flowing through that trine. Do you want to add to that, or you?
I would say this weekend, just be on the lookout, have your ears peeled and your scrolling thumb, that there could be all kinds of really unexpected, even though it's a weekend, information flying out about corruption and use of technology and money deals and
I believe
um,
I,
yes.
I think I think Gear Prism did a video saying there was another blog post come out with more receipts about it.
Oh, I meant to
Yeah,
put that in my list. Yes. Yes, there
yeah,
is a second whistleblower who actually, if you go to This Will Stand, I
yeah,
think that's
on
the name of the blog.
Substack. Yeah, yes, it
Right.
is.
There's this, I meant to add this. Sorry, so sorry. There's a second whistleblower that actually about an NSA audit of the last election results who says there is an algorithm that has been located
That's it.
that
Mm,
algorithm, okay, that would be this Pluto Uranus in
mm,
theology, that changed things, and that it really that the supposed winner really got maybe 1/3 of the vote.
mm,
So there could be more shocking stuff with this. We do have the lawsuit that's going forward in Rockland County, but whatever's happening this weekend is much bigger than that. And I would
yeah.
expect there's something that we didn't know that will come flying out because
Is,
of
is it
Uranus
is it
being in the 12th.
is it this will stand or is it this will hold? It's one of those. So you
Will
can say
hold. This will
if you
hold.
want to look
This will
at. There
hold.
we go. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So I hadn't had a chance to read it, so I just remembered her saying about it. So, August the 25th. So, the weekend, big weekend already over. But then we have more shifts and changes because Venus will leave the sign of Cancer and move into Leo, which on a light level is girls just want to have fun. And I just saw Cyndi Lauper, but but she was talking radical stuff in a red state on her stage. But anyway, so that's going to amp up but also Venus in Leo is about what does our heart really want, and people are going to start going, this doesn't feel right, I think, with Venus in Leo. But also,
That's
I'm sure Kathy's got kind of a different, less
Oh no,
esoteric.
it's real strong. Look at me. I mean, it's
Oh,
really
yeah.
I'm gonna step up. I'm gonna take center stage. I want to be seen. Notice
Yes.
me, notice me, notice me. Do not invalidate me.
Yeah. And also, Mercury on the 25th reaches the degree it's stationed retrograde at and trine Ceres again. And as I talk about in my book, those two were paired in the Roman gods and goddesses. And so they kind of have this boundary crossing energy. And Mercury is starting to tread new ground after this trine. And more information coming out from the that may have not emerged during the retrograde, but may have been starting to emerge. And this will be around our needs and, all of that kind of stuff. So big old light on that. So, yeah. Any more on that one?
Watch food prices, conversation about food prices,
Yeah.
food availability, supply chain, you just name it.
All our needs, physical, and
Mhm.
health wise, it could be as well. So all of those things. On to the 26th. Venus really starts to run the gauntlet, as Kathy said when we were preparing for this. Venus in Leo, she starts to aspect all of these players. The first aspects will be a sextile to Changemaker Uranus, and she will trine Neptune. All of this, to my mind, just says, not on my watch.
Well, the first thing she does is trine Saturn at 0.
Oh yeah, trine Saturn, and then Uranus, and I mean they're all happening together. I had them all. Sorry, I had them all written down, but Uranus is opposing my Mercury, and someone
Right.
to disappear. But you see where she is. She's in this fire, unbroken flow aspect to Saturn and Neptune, and then she's in a sextile to Uranus, which is in the midpoint of of the three of those two, which is forming this mini grand trine. And this speaks to me of, burning it down, but also like wildfire information coming out almost. Yeah. All that fire and air again. And then, not only that though, to add to it, then she opposes Pluto on the 27th, really looking down the barrel of those secrets and the crap that's being revealed. But really, look at this, they're all speaking to each other, really, this basket kind of envelope shape, or whatever you call that one. They're all working together, as these outer planets will be doing for the next few months, in a big way, next lot of months. So, but she immediately runs the gauntlet of that, and we're only at Wednesday.
So, a couple of things about this. Every time a planet changes signs, it's going to, for at least until the beginning of September, then it changes. It's going to hit limitations, uh, rules, demands for some kind of commitment or structure. Then it's going to have something kind of blow open. Then we're going to have oh, glamour. Oh, is this real? And then we're going to encounter what this means in terms of our whatever's going on in the collective and the power realignment. That's kind of an ongoing uh, theme. And so when Venus sets it off this week, you may find that the collective atmosphere, or what is in vogue to be in value, like what we're interested in at this moment. First, we're looking at taking charge of stuff ourselves, or how can we embody our own how can the people, how can women especially embody their own authority? And then something adds an unexpected element to it and maybe opens up a possibility we hadn't seen. And then there's some glamorizing of it, or dissolving of a situation, or a revealing. This could all be revealing what somebody in power has really been doing. And then we're staring it down, because Venus and Pluto both rule desire and money, but in differing ways. So there could be that we get
Mhm.
a glimpse of something, or it gets into the news and it's something that can't yet come into being, but we're looking at it like, uh-huh, uh-huh, there's an ocean liner coming into dock. How's that?
And just, can I add just a word of caution, built on what Kathy's saying, for the kind of people that usually love our videos, and clearly we're on a side, really, that this could apply to over glamorizing people like Gavin Newsom as well. They are doing
Oh,
their
yeah.
job, they're playing their part, they're not our saviors, right? Enjoy what he's doing, sure, but don't go, oh, he's going to be the next president. Like, how far out, you know? Anyway, there's a lot of change to come before then anyway. So I wish people in this country would stop talking about who's going to be the new president right after the old one has been inaugurated. So,
Thank the media for that. Okay.
oh, yeah, I do. On the 28th, Uranus and Neptune have the first exact sextile opportunity aspect. Oh, sorry, it's the second. No, it's the first in these signs. First in these signs. They will keep this dance between Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. This mini grand trine here is a major part of the big shift we're going through. But this is exact on the 28th, Uranus and Neptune. So Uranus, breakthroughs, radical change. Neptune is kind of that glamour thing, but it's also dissolving a lot of, things we thought to be true, and bringing out, what is really true for you inside. That's how I see it. So, yeah. Any
More
thoughts on,
shocking news.
but more shock news? Yeah, that
We're,
will
we're, we're just, it's
probably
like,
open you. Hmm.
oh, we'll be in overload. More shocking, like, what? What now? What now? But this will be more liberating, not just,
Oh
oh
yeah,
my God, someone's just thrown another brick in my head. Make it quit. No, no, no. No.
yeah. I always kind of think of Uranus as being hit round the head with a 4x4 that says "wake up." And then you go, oh my God. Anyway, so it can hurt first. I actually went to my boxing class this morning and didn't have my guard up and got hit with one of those water soft pole things. I was like, ow. She said you
Oh
should have had your
dear.
guard up. She does it playfully. She doesn't do it very often. She's trying to teach you the technique. Anyway, I'm jumping to August 31st. We'll quickly go through the others because a lot of it applies to what we'll talk about next week. So we'll go in less detail here. But Mercury, well out. Look how far he's gone in that week, because he's trotting along now, the old trickster. And Mercury will trine Eris and Eris and Chiron, who are kind of working together to kind of shake some tables, and so more shock news. More shock news about wounds and potential for what we can do to be the key to healing. But the other big aspect, well, there's two. Mars will oppose Ceres. And so, the charts we're going to look at, most of them are hit by this one. And, this is, Libra is balance and harmony and justice, all of those things. Ceres is in Mars sign, and that's our needs. So, what Kathy already said about, our needs, food prices, things like that. I think we're really going to realize that, I've noticed prices going up a lot. I don't know about you. So, anyway, the other aspect on that day is the sun trotting along in Virgo as well will try and follow us. There we go. Will actually, that's the cause and effect, kind of Pandora's box kind of thing. One small action kind of leading to a ripple effect is another one. And I've noticed, because I've been tracking the centaurs quite a bit, and I've noticed that Pholus has gradually been kind of revealing kind of where things began, where this corruption began to, come out. So that's my thing on that one. September the 1st, big shift again. Saturn moves back into Pisces. We'll talk more about that next week, I think, but big energy shifts. And September the 2nd, Mercury moves into Virgo, its own home sign. It will start getting to the details, I think, of all the stuff, the news that's coming out. On that day too, Venus will oppose Pallas Athena at 9 Leo Aquarius. We'll talk more about that this week. But if you remember, what we said about Venus, and this is the goddess of strategy. Mercury on September the 3rd. So we're not looking at every day here. Mercury will exactly square Uranus. So, we had that new moon. We started with that. Mercury is going to go and aspect all the things that the new moon aspected. And this is kind of higher mind, lower mind in a way. And there's a lot more news, shock news.
Can I make one comment about the shift that's going on starting September 1st and through this?
Oh, yeah.
And that would be, okay, it's been really, really chaotic this summer. I mean, when has it not been chaotic? But when we get into September, some of the fieriness starts to tamp down just a little bit, and this emphasizes more the what are we going to do about it? Uh,
Yeah.
it's not so much that new things come into the picture, maybe a twist on something that was out there before, but it turns much more into uh, let's look at what's here. And with Saturn at the end of Pisces, this is starting a return to stuff that was going on in March when we had that massive, massive pile up of Pisces. So there's going to be a let's relook, and this is already starting to build up to the next eclipses.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, so September the 3rd, I talked about Mercury square Uranus. The only other aspect I'll quickly mention is that Jupiter will aspect the nodes, which are sitting at that degree right through the eclipses. And Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer, which is the US. The US is a Cancerian country with a lot of cancer. And, I to build on what Cassie said, this is kind of, we're going to feel like how this is hitting our sense of safety and security and uncertainty. And what are we going to do about it? I always think of water and earth more about kind of sculpting kind of energy, molding work, earthy work. Anyway, so on the 4th, Mars will square Jupiter, building on that again, 18 degrees, 18 degrees, 18 degrees. And we'll talk more about all that next week. On September the 6th, though, and we're nearly done, Venus will actually trine Ceres. But she's moving so fast at the moment that 2 weeks ago when we were on, we had the big Venus-Jupiter fixed star Sirius conjunction at 14 Cancer. Again, US country with the sun at 13 Cancer. 13, well, it'll be 14. So it's all affecting the USA in a huge way. And this is the unbroken flow. This is kind of the action phase because Venus is moving very fast and will oppose Ceres eventually. So this is kind of fire action, do it. And then Mercury also aspects that cause and effect, a centaur that I talked about with the sun. And we're finally finishing on the lunar eclipse, which I'll just get the whole chart up, which we're not going to talk about loads, but this is a lunar total eclipse and teasing for next week. So come back and listen next week. It's hitting Trump's Uranus.
It's demanding complete destabilization of his public life and his health. So we'll be talking about that next week in detail.
I think we're seeing it start to happen, though, because of the nodes being connected to the eclipses, and that's already square his Uranus as well. So keep watching all of that. But anyway, all right. So where did you go? Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
I know you went black on my screen. It's I'm like, who do you want to start with? Nicole?
Yeah, because we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on the three people because we laid out the upcoming astrology so much. But this is the Texas representative who refused to sign a document saying that she would allow a Texas Ranger to, um, she'd be allowed out of the chambers if she was escorted by a ranger, and who was threatened with felony arrest for FaceTiming in the restroom. Had to get off a phone call. She has lawsuit pending for habeas corpus, which, by the way, began under Saturn conjunct Neptune.
Yeah.
And we were talking
Do
about
you
all
want
that
to
Virgo.
do you want
And
to
look at her.
do you want to quickly say what habeas corpus is for the non-legal
Habeas corpus
minds?
is that is a concept that started with the Magna Carta way back when King John was forced to allow his the nobles to share in power. Habeas corpus means that you're asking government to explain by what right they have your body locked up somewhere. Corpus meaning body. So
Yeah. So we're not going to look at every aspect. We're going to do it really quickly. But if you
look at all
listened
that
to
Virgo.
look at all this Virgo, we've got Pisces, Virgo eclipses. The lunar eclipse is we'll have the sun exactly on her Pallas Athena and Mercury. So court cases, talking strategy. Where's she going with here? I would say, and the nodes, the South Node sits on her Mars. Oh my God, I love that. To be honest, I think Mars in Virgo is always really driven to do the right thing. Okay. And it's widely square her Saturn too. But Mars, you talk about that one or add to the other ones too, is going to come up and hit her Uranus. I will just get that exact.
September 1, I do believe, is when Mars is going to hit her Uranus. So she's going to be in the news for a while, and there's a reason she is the person who emerged for this fight with well, okay, with the current South Node, what we're releasing, what we're moving away from, and there's a lot to do with in the US chart, it's a marker for racism, systemic racism. So she's attacking that because the redistricting is looking at five largely black represented areas that are going to be tinkered with.
Mm-hmm.
Do note that she has a 4-degree Leo Venus and Mercury
Mm-hmm.
stationed direct on her Venus. So that was part of why she got fired up. She came out. Um, we have Mars moving across her Uranus. Then the eclipse that will be activating her Mercury, how she communicates, Pallas Athena, her strategy, and it's actually going to also pull in her Mars and her Sun. And then in
Mm-hmm.
early October, Jupiter is going to cross her south node. So she's going to be in the news for some time.
And incidentally, her south node is exactly conjunct the USA's Mercury. I just remembered where it was.
So she's speaking to
24 Cancer. So, yeah.
something that's important.
Oh, yeah. And, to bring in, I mentioned it, the Mars series opposition is right on. So Mars is not only sitting on her Uranus, but just before that opposes her Chiron in Aries. And Ceres is retrograde. She's really fired up, I think, saying none of this is meeting the needs of my constituents. I think I even heard her use that expression.
That would fit.
Yeah, Kathy shared a great video with me of Kamala Harris actually gave her a call while she was in there. So I thought,
And Harris's Neptune, I'm sorry,
mm,
Harris's Uranus, this Uranus and Pluto are straddling
mhm.
Nicole's um, Pallas and Mars. So
And
they're
can
doing the same
because
things.
we may not look at her again because there's so much to look at. But so I'm going to mention it now. But the new moon solar eclipse on September the 21st is square her Jupiter in Sagittarius, and I have Jupiter in Sagittarius. It's the ruling planet of Sagittarius. It's the law. It says, I want this law upheld. So, yeah, there's so many things happening with her chart. So this is why archetypally she's the person there. So,
Right.
yeah. So Gavin next
Yep.
quickly, and then oh, sorry, I went to. We'll come back to him. But Gavin Newsom, born October 10th, 67. I'll just leave the chart where it is, I think,
Look at all that, Virgo. What did we say?
Mhm. Yeah, and this new moon that's tomorrow morning is at 0 Virgo, but it's a big new moon, so I'm going to say being very close. I'm going to say it's conjunct his Venus. I'm a bit loose with the orbs, especially when it's a big energy. And so Venus is values and relationships, but in Virgo as well it wants to do the right thing, so that's the new moon hits him. Mercury sitting on his Jupiter as well coming up. Yeah, all of those things. And then
Uranus,
Mars.
the trickster planet, is in the ninth house, which is how you broadcast your message, and it's squaring that Venus in Virgo. I'm sorry, I just ran over you, but this is what's going on with his social media, and
Yeah.
the fact that there's a woman who's his social media director.
Mm. But the fact we left this, I left the transits where they are on this one because we just looked at Nicole, how Mars was affecting her chart by transit. Well, it's coming up to sit on his first house sun. We have an accurate time for him, so this is definitely kind of his first house. And again, opposing series. This is all like in the house, first and seventh house of me versus the other, if you like. I expect attacks to come back at him, but Eris is involved too, so he's shaking tables. And again, he's a man of the moment, I think. So, I really wish people would not get too carried away thinking he's our new savior. So please don't. Who knows, he may be, but at this point, he's doing he's doing what his job is. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we had mentioned a finger of fate with Neptune and Pluto so Neptune's in his seventh house of allies and open enemy, and Pluto in the house of risk. And they're pointing at the moon in his hidden stuff, but also his Venus, which is what he values.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And all that Virgo, especially because he is Virgo rising for sure. And the eclipses are hitting all of that. Virgo is we talked about that finger of destiny, and Virgo is kind of like the filing cabinet and the details, or you could say it's redistricting maps. So, all those redrawings of lines and things. Just another kind of thing on it. Kind of
That's
in
true.
response to what the others are doing, right? So,
Mhm.
in the seventh house. Okay, so man of the moment. And then John Bolton. I was walking this morning, and I'm a subscriber to the Bulwark podcast. And so I was listening to this FBI raid live reported by George Conway, who lives nearby, or his daughters go to school in that area or something, he said. And it was really interesting because John Bolton was not there. His wife was there. They did the raid early, but he goes to the office even earlier. So that kind of sets the scene for John Bolton in the moment, And I'm going to bring the aspects right back to today, right? Because the raid happened today. But I noticed that Jupiter was right on his moon this morning. So,
Well,
yeah, go on.
it's a
Mhm.
solar chart. His moon's in that general area, and
Yeah, actually, it
and
fits though.
moon fit, and it's his wife and his family being the ones that were involved, and
Mhm,
also I'd like to point out, whatever you think of his politics, that in Cancer is someone who loved his country.
mhm. Oh, he really does. And he has that Saturn in Virgo as well, which is very much about stick to the rules and the law and stick to doing the right thing. And he's kind of got integrity of his own, personal integrity, at least like stick to the law and so on. And I was just thinking when I remembered it as the solar chart, maybe his moon's a little bit earlier in the day, and it's been activated by all that Venus Jupiter Sirius
Mhm.
energy coming up, because he's suddenly, he's been on TV, hasn't he, been talking about Trump and Putin, and this is
Yeah.
one of the reasons they've kind of done this. And so it's not a good thing that they've done this with him, even if you don't like his politics. This is not good. But Mars is coming up to cross over his Neptune, and then we'll cross over his Venus. So, that's going to kind of activate his values, and also I think he kind of is not going to shut up. I think he's going to keep revealing more things. Do you?
Well, yeah, and the 11th does deal with groups work, even though this is a solar chart, your
Yeah.
role in groups and organizations. Maybe he'll go before Congress. This does involve a lot of what he told Congress. Um,
Mhm.
so they're attacking what he told Congress. But the thing that got my notice greatest out of this is looking at Pluto retrograde at the very early stages of Aquarius. His nodes are at 4 uh Taurus,
So, yeah.
Cancer, I'm Scorpio, and next year that is, I mean so they're in a square, it's a T square to that Pluto, and that T square isn't going away. It'll get tight next year, but
Mhm.
they're going to regret they shook here, because he will be communicating. It is his purpose to
It
communicate
is. Yeah.
tangible information about money.
Hmm. I think so. So, and what they activated this morning is just going to blow back on them in so many ways. I think there's, just looking at the moment of it, even if it was earlier, a bit earlier in the morning, the moon would have been right on his series. So, the moon in mundane astrology is the people. So again, whatever you think of politics, I think, he really does, love the country and wants what's best for the country, even if you don't agree with him. I think in his heart he does, right? But also, the fact that Jupiter is close to his moon, at least, I think he is really pissed that his wife was home alone when they did this, having to deal with the FBI raiding and ripping things apart.
Yeah, this one will be in the news quite a bit, especially once we get
Mm,
into September.
mm,
Quite a bit.
yeah, yeah. So, there's lots more we could say on all those charts, but I hope we've kind of expressed why they are the three that are really kind of up in the news, or at least some of the three. Yeah, some of many. There's a few others, but as of today, right in the news. Anyway, so as usual, do yourself care.
Oh my.
Venus is moving into Leo, so that's have some flipping fun.
You
Enjoy
got it.
yourself. Yeah. And go and play Girls Just Want to Have Fun. She was brilliant, by the way. So it's her final tour. If you get to see Cyndi Lauper, go and go. So yeah. So for now, goodbye from me. See you next week,
Bye.
Kathy.
That's it.